Welcome to our first 2024 Artist Talk of the year of 2024. We are featuring Ben Driggs, who is an artist from Chicago who has been with us for 3 weeks working on various projects. And this is part of our Artists and Community program, which is a program that invites artists from near and far to come and live at Alchemy and share their skills and teach classes and do infrastructure projects and interact with the community in various ways. And without further ado, this is Ben Driggs.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Right in there. Great. Do I have to look at myself though?
You can minimize.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go big.
You can go small.
Okay. Other people, oh, do I have to go big again? Or
Small and then other people can talk. So you don't have
like this?
Yeah.
Okay. I will sacrifice for you people.
yeah.
Well, hi, my name is Ben Driggs. I live in Chicago. I make a lot of different artworks and a lot of similar stuff to what a lot of people here are into, which is really cool for me because I get to see what a lot of people are into differently. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's my, okay. I know her. Oh, wait, is her picture gonna come up here?
Yeah, we can also like not have video on the person who it is. Sorry. This is like
Setup.
okay, no, we don't have video. Okay, perfect.
cool.
Okay, so we're just gonna minimize. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. And I was really excited to come here for that reason, because I knew people would be into the stuff that I'm into, like metal casting and sun prints and building crazy buildings and working on your buildings for your whole life and like kind of biting off maybe more than you realize you can chew with projects around here. But then you just keep doing it and keep working on it. And that's so inspiring for me to see here. So I'll just kind of go over stuff I've done in the past and talk about how I got to what I'm into now. For me, I start pretty much everything with drawings. And I think when I do drawings, they're all drawings of sculptures or like 3D things I want to make. So I'm really not worried about like rendering or image, you know, even any kind of image for me that comes from me, the way I produce things is always like an image of something that exists either hypothetically or in the world. Kind of like when you see sculpture, you can't really take a picture of a sculpture, you know, and I'm always thinking in that 3D way, which is something I really just realized getting prepared for this talk. So I'll show you some of the drawings that I kind of just took pictures of in my sketchbook, stuff that I want to do, stuff that I'm interested in, and some stuff that I ended up doing. I'm really interested in figuration, kind of like intuitive body shapes, heads, holes in bodies and for organic forms with bodies on them, or like bodies just kind of hidden inside of a building or a sculpture or something like that, or a depiction of a body. And oh, here's another body that's like I'm into candles as well. This is just kind of a quick overview of different stuff. So this would be like, this has not been made. This is like this would be a tray laying on its back with candles coming out of the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, and the big butt chin. And this is like a sketchbook with a bunch of different candle ideas with enhanced encryption. Okay. I'm not sure.
Look into the full screen mode, maybe that might help unless you can.
You are, oh shit. screen sharing. I'm not sure how to do full screen. So,
We like do it so each.
oh, that's, it went away. It stopped.
Oh, cool. Do you want to like expand this into full screen or?
I think
that
this
might
is
be
okay, because it's just, you know, it's more candle ideas. I love candles. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. These are some sketches that kind of became something, and other things that I want to do. The stuff on the bottom left is kind of like architectural guardrail around a garden I want to make. And then the other kind of drawing of the cat and the plants is something that I did end up making. There's some pictures later. Concrete with embedded stuffaroo. And then this is a casting. I would love this to be an aluminum casting, kind of like a sun man stuck in a web with chain pieces, or it could be really small, like jewelry. And this is more like concrete architectural, like furniture, almost yard stuff with things embedded in it. And then just kind of a mishmash. This is kind of how I think about things. I'm like, sketching kind of looks like this. So like, I have these like things that keep coming back to ways that I work. And I kind of, all of the stuff that I do is represented on this page pretty much. And this is like, this drawing came up. This is an old drawing, but it's something that I actually made closer to actually finished making here at Alchemy when we were in Kay's class with the tar paper folding stuff. This is the face I was trying to make.
Yeah.
At that class. So yeah, I think with the sketchbook, get away. Trying to get. I'll just go.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah. So I came hoping to do clay, which I love clay. It's so easy and quick. It captures everything you do. And it's a real opportunity for me to let my like body's intuition take over and to shut my mind up and shut it out of the process as much as I can. When I usually do clay, I'm in my basement. I have a kiln in my basement and it's kind of a low ceiling. And then above the ceiling, there are these floor joists going across. And on the bottom of all the joists, I have this like piece of plywood drilled up there, and up in that space above that plywood is all VHS tapes. I buy VHS tapes from the thrift store, and it doesn't matter if I haven't seen it. If it's bad, that's better, you know? So
Have you seen Mixed Nuts?
I don't have Mixed Nuts and I've never seen it, but maybe I have seen it, actually, I don't know. But that would be a good one to put on, because what I do is like put on a tape and look at the screen and not at what I'm doing, pretty much.
With clay.
Yeah, I try to get as intuitive as I can. I'm looking at the screen, I'm trying to, and if there's a movie with a lot of cool imagery in it, I'll watch it like 5 times in a day. Watch it over and over.
Wow. How did you come to that?
It's helps so much I don't like being tortured by what to do, like the question of what to do. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What's the point? Why did I start this? How do I finish this? When is it finished? A tape stops and then you have to put in a new tape. Maybe the sculpture is finished then, like I'm really not trying to put my ego into the thing. I want to take it away. It's an opportunity to take it away, just to connect with the spirit or something like that. So I made all these like that. I took a wood-fired ceramics class. I really loved that because that's like painting with a gun from far away. You don't have to think about it, do anything. And the chaotic nature of it is like, oh yeah, that's great. I kind of wish there was a machine that could just dump stuff onto the thing and make it look like that, like you pulled it out of the dump, you know, the natural patina of something. Here's the back. I really love this pot. And then here's a drawing of the kind of language that I got started with doing some clay stuff over the past couple of years, which is like have these dry pieces of clay, you know, random stuff that you're supposed should recycle, but I just like let it go. And I break it up with like a hammer or I like score it, take it apart. And that's in a bin over here. And then I'm building a pot over here and it's all wet. And I have a big jug of like slip. And I take the dry stuff, duck it in the slip, and shove it right in the thing. And I try to make like as a way of additive when it's too late and maybe you're breaking the rules and maybe something's going to break and not work. And that could actually end up working really well if it breaks. And here's another opportunity to bring something to the work that's out of my hands or like outside of my intention, which is like another alternative fire, which is pit firing. And you can see these are kind of just got a lot of smoke on them, no real big color, but I thought that was nice. And pretty much all of these were lost in this firing. And then those shards I keep in a bin and I want to put those shards on like a concrete sculpture, like in the drawings I showed before. Here's some that survived there. And here's another one. Yeah, it's a small flower planter that, you know, I make these forms. I'm still making like functional ware. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to do, whether it's functional or sculptural. It's so blurred in my life now. It's all kind of the same thing now. There's another one. And that's kind of more of a process shot. And then this is kind of gets to some stuff I'll talk about a little later, which is this is mortar actually. I had extra mortar from doing some brickwork, and there's some broken ceramic stuck into this thing. And this is a part of me trying to, when I'm doing jobs, which I do a lot of jobs on my house, like home improvement basically, or like architecture, or just like basic home ownership stuff. I'm like trying to use every little bit of the extra time and the extra material in that process to make art with, or put art into those processes as well. And here's just a drawing of like some hypothetical pots. Before I came here, I thought maybe I could make back here. So outside of ceramics, I do like to do a lot of other figuration. And it usually takes the form of like a recognizable head. So I'll use different tools, whatever I've got around. If I have some like offcuts from a project or something, I'll cut pieces apart and like sandwich them together. And it's like Rit dye, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then little chainsaw. I have a chainsaw with a tiny little tip on it, and you can kind of like get in there and do little things like quick and rough and dirty. Work as fast as I can.
It's really interesting how your that wood, but it looks so similar to some of the stuff that you're making out of ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tool, the story of the process of creating it is so present in your work. Be that out of any material, it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, I really do want I want people to see what's there. I kind of feel like smoothing over what's underneath is a little bit like a lie, you know, like I understand that it's like a goal to make something highly rendered and realistic, but for me, I really connect with the process.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't like the part of the process that is the end.
You can see that, you
Yeah.
can see that in your work, that it's like, it's about the process, it's
Mhm.
about the tool that
Yeah.
you're using to make it.
Yeah.
Not the process of making it.
Yeah.
Not how you, not obscuring that, it's like, has like a time, a quality that's like. The action is physicalized, and you
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, to me, it feels like you're being more generous if you do more with each tool, you know, like make a bigger thing or like a deeper cut, you know. There's another little head with a writ die and a little pedestal, and there's another smaller head back here, which is like in the crotch of a tree that was in the neighbor's yard. It's a weird photo, but this is a cool, whatever. This is like a black plastic on a floral foam, you know, those blocks of floral foam. You can kind of just push your thumbs and sculpt it like clay. And a little wooden head that had some existing paint on it that I put cyanotype on. So it had flowers on its head. And there's another little head in the background.
Does the cyanotype come through the plastic sheeting?
It's underneath, and the plastic is just holding the plant matter on.
And then it works.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does the serograph leave like marks?
Yeah. This was pretty faint. I don't have a finished photo of this. And then these are, Yeah.
Only about Ron.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stereotypes.
This is these are little corner posts for our raised bed in our garden. And then this was another process-based group of things that was like make a head wooden sculpture of a figure on a bandsaw out of each little piece of, you know, start with a piece of wood and then cut each little part of the features out. And then you have a positive, but then you also have the negative shape of that. And then put the negative shape back together and cast plaster into that. And then you can get this, and you can see it has all these really pointy ridges on it. And there's writ dye in the plaster. And there's another little head. This was kind of a portrait of my friend Neil. And another little one.
What tool was that?
These are all that little chainsaw. This one, yeah, that was, I put the tiny tip in the electric saw. So all of that stuff was done at in my yard and or the basement. And all of my artistic production has kind of centered around a building that I bought with my partner in 2014. And that place has just totally changed my focus and shifted all of my effort into a new school and new like meaning for me of artistic production. So I went to art school and I came out and I was so frustrated after having training and mentors in art school. And as soon as I kind of started finding my way a little bit and a personality as an artist that felt more true to me, that was totally kind of outside of everything I learned in art school. And I started to idolize people who were never appreciated for their work, and a lot of their work was torn down, or they were sued out of ownership and then it was torn down or whatever, because it was like location based stuff, non-consumable, non-marketable stuff, like art environments. You know, then I kind of started lining up with maybe I should get a place and start doing crazy stuff on that place, like these guys, all these people that I love. So we did end up getting a house. And so pretty much I'm focused on making, I'll figure it out, making stuff for this building now. And I got it 10 years ago, so it's pretty much all about this for 10 years. And that means not just the art, but also all the stuff that I have to do to keep it as a house. So things are, I'm sure you guys understand, a lot of you, some of you here have built your own homes, and it's a journey, it's a lot. But you can see here in this picture, I think I started with some pictures of this crazy situation. There's a little tiny round window at the top of this building that's boarded up. This was an early photo of the house, and that window was boarded up, or not boarded up, but just completely like blocked off. We couldn't really like figure out where it was in the house. So my
So
partner,
you can see it from the outside.
you can see it from the outside, couldn't see it from the inside. And so my partner kicked a hole in the door or in the wall. And then there it is, there's a window back there. So this became like, okay, there's an opportunity revealed to make this right and make it fun and better.
Yeah, we are the ones and we pin ourselves and then we share our screen and
Hi.
What the heck?
You gotta add over here.
Okay.
There's 4 of us. Wait, 2, 4, 5 of us.
wow, that's the best. Okay, okay, here we go. Okay. I don't know
All
how
right.
to do it.
Is she muted?
We will now mute ourselves at our dinner party watching Ben.
Stuck at.
Okay, is this okay? Or should I? Okay. Well, let me.
We're gonna minimize, we do a lot.
Okay, sorry. New to
Sorry.
new to Zoom.
Everything is.
So yeah, this was a cool opportunity, and I'll just show what happened with this little window. Yeah, so this was like, okay, when we started this big project up in the attic, we wanted to finish something, like anything, because everything is unfinished in a totally unfinished state still to this day. And we just wanted one thing to be like, it's gonna stay like this, So we made this window. Ash made the window based on this thing on the building, these little floret things right there look just like
Oh, is
that.
that the window?
Yes. So this is actually, when we were here, there was glass in here. So we boarded this up before we put our window in, because the glass was all broken and weird.
So you could see the glass from behind the glass. It should be insulated.
It was just dark. Yeah. Couldn't see inside.
Funny.
Climb right through. First thing we did, you can see there's the old wall, and there's the original wall, and tile on these little joists in the attic. We took all that out. Anyway, there's that window. And then other little repairs we do, we try to make everything we do just weird or interesting, or try to integrate other ways of doing building and architecture. So like there's a little bottle window where there was just a hole here where the cats were getting in and like peeing in there. And then put this little garden man in the wall here. Little blue underglazed things.
Cool.
And there's a porch cat. And here's another little project that was just carving in our address, and we had to rebuild this main hole right here. We just put all the old doors back in. So it's been a lot of small things up until a couple of years ago when we really bit off the big project, which was duplexing our apartment up into the attic, which was a lot of learning contractor and building stuff for me, like how to build stairs and framing walls and load calculations for lumber deflection and stuff like that, which I was totally new to me. And that's been a pretty steep learning curve, but it's been also a lot of systems stuff like pipes and HVAC and windows, insulation, framing, super boring things. And which could be more interesting. And we try to make it as interesting as we can, but it's also has to be done in a way. At least that has been my conception of, it actually doesn't have to be done in any particular way unless you're going to be inspected by like a city inspector, which I'm hoping to never be inspected. This beam is really cool. It came from this one, yeah. Came from a guy who ran a demolition business and hauled all of his demoed wood up to his property in Wisconsin and it was hoarding it there forever. And then he built some really interesting structures out of it. He had some extra wood and I was able to get some. And there's some more posts of his in the basement that go all the way down. So, there's opportunities to be creative, but there's also a lot of just labor. And here's the front of the attic as it was like a few months ago. And there's that window there.
So you're living in the house or building
We live in the apartment that's right under here. And so there's 4 apartments. My brother and we have a tenant friend, Gabe, who lives there. Then we live in this apartment, and then this big unit will become our place, and then my mom will probably end up moving into one of the units. So a part of my intention for integrating art into my world, which is kind of like focused on the building, is I wanted to have like jewelry on the house, on the outside, like artistic works that can hang on the building and be part of the community to share, kind of spread the juice all over outside and into the community. So I started drawing these figuration things that I wanted to make, and I started making them in ceramic, and then I was like, well, actually, this isn't going to work. They're all based on like rings and chains. I'm going to need something more durable. So I started looking into, here's another one, kind of like a house motif with another kind of figural element in it. Started looking into making some casting equipment, and I got online and figured out how to do it. And this is the first run. It's like a blow dryer with some pipes and some plaster mixed with sand. And that's how I started making my first shots at casting aluminum, which is kind of what I'm really into now. And I use this process, which is a sand 2-part mold making process, which is pretty cheap and quick and dirty and like quick and dirty and kind of low stakes as far as time goes. So I started moving from drawings into sculptures with this thing. And then when I started getting all these castings out, I would cut them apart and kind of lay them around and try different arrangements of them and see what they were, what the process added to it. There's some requirements when you do casting, like you need sprues and vents, pathways to get the metal through and into everything. And those end up being really interesting because when you are carving into this mold making material, whatever you remove is going to become metal. So it's like drawing in metal, if you can like envision it that way. And it ends up being just as good, if not better, than the pattern you started with. So it's another opportunity for the process to kind of come up to be as important or more important than the intention. Because in the end, I'm looking at all of this stuff to turn into the sculpture. So here's kind of what it looks like during the process. There's what I wanted to make and then what came out. They're all a little different. They have a kind of web or like dipped in view vibe, or they have super fine detail like fingerprints on them.
So this is what you casted, or they're just, this is your reference material?
I sculpted in these clay pieces. So this I think is bisqued. Sometimes I'll bisque the clay, or I'll just leave it air dry. And then I'll lay that on into the mold and ram that up. And then these are the castings that came out. And you can see they all look like clay, which I really liked because I love that clay has that natural, everything is touched. Everything, it records every single thing you do. And that can be frustrating if you don't want every single thing you do to be recorded. But if you do, it's the ultimate thing. It's perfect. It's almost like you're drawing in the air and it's recording your performance. Here's the other casting I had. So I kind of laid them down on the ground and start with my drawing, and then I had my shapes, and now I'm trying to put them together. So I'm like welding them together. And here's that process right there. I just did it on the floor of the basement. So this is a good photo because you can see it, because it's kind of hard to see aluminum against the white surface because this was installed. So I started making this sculpture because there was a spot on the garage that I wanted something. So I drew it and I made it and I put it up there. So here it is on the garage.
Cool way to interact with the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice doubling. And I'll talk a little more later on, but this, once it becomes a thing, then it has a shadow. I started wanting to record that in different ways. And I also wanted to record the kind of assembly process as well, since that was a process that gets lost outside of imagery. So I started doing some work with that too, which is part of the thing later. Here's another sculpture that was based on the drawing, which is like more of a, you can see that nothing's connected. This is like a mobile where everything is kind of moving loosey-goosey. So it's just chains that are dangling. And this is dangling from like a thing that's bolted to the house. Little guy in there with a big chain, and this kind of reminds me of like a magician's chain that we would hold his like coat together with or something. It's kind of a dull noise, yeah. Sometimes when the thicker piece hits another thicker piece, it'll resonate more. But it does like kind of scrape. It's not very tonal. I thought about doing more intentionally like noiseful, beautiful sounding things. I'm not quite there yet. I do want to do that. Here's some of the drawings for that process, ideas for clay shapes to add that I knew I wanted, outside of just kind of being down there and messing with it until something came out. Now here's another casting that has like some chain elements to it. This is put together pretty quickly with cardboard and hot glue. And then I made a box that would just fit around this thing and molded that. And all these little chains came later. This is like a cast piece of a real chain. And then these are kind of links that I made one by one with little bits of wire that I soldered together.
So they have to be cast separately, right? They're gonna function like a chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the aluminum, I've never really cast with other material, but some of these pieces of aluminum, if you just slice open the ring, you can open it up and then put it around another ring and then close it up and then just weld it shut. And it's pretty easy. Thinking of jewelry with this, I also like to put jewelry on like cars. So you like open it up and put it on like a tow hitch or like a ladder rack or something, and weld it on there, and then it's like a chain that's like rolling all around. You're in. And this, I don't really have a lot of titles, but this one I call dream clock.
What?
Dream clock. Because they say in your dreams you can't read the time on a clock. But and then this is just another small sculpture that's made of a little bit of wax and then cardboard that I cast. And more recently, I'm into making a little bit bigger relief style work that's kind of like this, where it's materials, like craft materials you put together, but then through this aluminum process, they become like this big chunky pictorial thing. And here's another one. This is all stuff that came out of the house. This is like a thermostat wire around the edge, and this cardboard is from like a fart fan that I cut open. And this is glue with a little bit of metal grinding flakes in it. And this is hot glue. And then this is kind of more process based type thing where I'm getting more into the process of metal, where I started with a cardboard frame, and then I made like a hot glue drawing on plastic that I peeled off the plastic and molded that. And then I drew in the back half of the drawing to kind of give more heft to all this stuff back here. And then on top of all that process, the casting was incomplete. So it's got these kind of edges that are just blobs of metal that cool down and stop flowing during the process. So this, I really love how that one turned out. And then I make, I'm really interested in candles. I think, I'm working on all these, thinking about all these interior spaces and how I'm trying to be artful with working on my little home, that a way to animate that and to kind of live in that place with some kind of intentionality of goodness and like rightness, and a way to like an easy way for me to kind of lock into a feeling of creativity is to use candles at night. So I started making some accoutrement for candle burning. So I'm really into making candelabra. I started with doing it with the casting material. So this is an aluminum sculpture with 3 candles that I made. Here's another one that's got kind of a more ornate vibe. And this is what I'm working on now. Currently, I'm thinking this is what it's going to be. Just a big lot of chains, kind of a floppy, loose thing with a big sun star on it, some eyes, and no real figural elements. And I'm kind of starting to reference jewelry in the stuff here with these kind of like earring, nose ring looking shapes. And with the candles, I started with the aluminum, but now I'm thinking I'd love to do blacksmith as well. So I have all this extra metal coming out of the house, which is copper pipes. And like I've had to go through the house and rip out a lot of copper to find where leaks came out. And when I do that, I end up with like lots of old pipe with really nice patina on it. And I wanted to figure out something to do with it. So I started saving it all. And then I had to rip out a lot of copper at one point for the project I'm doing now with the big duplex. And I ended up having enough to make these kind of, so this is just a 3/4 inch copper pipe that I kind of open up. And then this is like a bigger 2-inch copper drain pipe that I cut and kind of riveted together. And all these rivets, these little pieces of metal here, are wires from electrical circuits that we ripped out or that were extra. on the floor from doing electrical work. And I was inspired by these sculptures at the Met Cloister of medieval candelabra, where they just blacksmith these awesome spikes onto these shapes, and they had tallow candles, which are really soft, and they would just kind of like sink them on that spike because they were just fat, animal fat. So I started looking at different types of candelabra when I was getting into this, and I ultimately landed on like an Ebenezer Scrooge, who goes there vibe. Yeah. And they're really beautiful. I love all kinds of candle gear. And I have a bunch of different types of cool candle gear. This one I really like. It's a much bigger one. I think this has 11 candles in it. And this is all like these big discs are that 2-inch drain pipe. And these are all the 3/4 inch copper lines. And the cups are the 3/4 inch copper, and it's all riveted together with the same wires in the house. So it's all copper. And then this is a little singleton candelabra, which these guys have. And then this is a really cool one because we found this grounding wire that connected a water heater pipe to another electrical element to prevent like the water pipe from, if in case it got electrified, it would trip the breaker and not just continually electrify that water pipe while you're taking a shower or something. But it's a really thick copper wire, which ended up making awesome fat rivets. And there's a picture of two of them on an old table. Little copper thing. I hammered out the pipe, but I don't know where this piece of copper came from. It was scrapped from something else.
And that patina was naturally.
This is actually solder, just kind of all over the place. And here's one more. A lot of candles.
Do you recommend putting in a candle if you don't have a wick?
I don't know. I'd scrape it out and cast a new candle with a wick. During this whole process, I like to document with the whole image thing with sculpture, how it's hard to like see a sculpture as a 2D thing or impossible. I love to try to do that. So taking a sculpture and making like a sun print of it is something I really love to, as a way of generating images that feel like true to what I'm into. And I started with this kind of figural thing, which is a Halloween costume that I made and wore one year, and has like a kind of like missing figure thing where you can tell maybe how someone would wear it and what it would look like on a body, but the body's not there. It's kind of de-animated. Kind of like the way, then I get into how do I make an image out of this sculpture that expresses what the sculpture is, but also is an image. So this is a later version of the same kind of group of things where I have some pieces of metal in it because I was into how the metal was creating reflections in the print. And in my generation of this, figuring out how to make sculptures and what I want the sculptures to look like from their parts as I get started, I'll try it out by making prints of ideas for sculptures. They end up, in different ways of being. And here you can kind of see how some of the sculptures make reflections or expose some of the unexposed areas by bouncing light off of the shiny aluminum. And then this is actually a picture of the wallpaper in the house. It's another way I'm trying to make wallpaper, make surfaces in the house that are kind of reflective of the overall project, you know. Some horsehair. And then there's a weed that came out from behind the garage, which is super tall, it's like 6 feet tall. Yeah, this would be a really great, well, like repeated same weed across the whole room, you know. I don't even know. I should know. And then to make some money, I make shirts. I try to sell that. So I just kind of take this same stuff I'm doing and put it on a t-shirt. And in my experience, that is a really good way to get money out of making art. So I made shirts of the same Halloween costumes so other people can wear it. Here's the back of just a big chain net. And I also make like bootleg band t-shirts with this solar fast process, which is like a colorful sun print of these Sade shirts. And here's some Cure shirts I made for when the Cure came through last summer. Really expensive shirt, you know, like this is really not cheap. I'm trying to find the one fan. I made 4 shirts, you know. Just trying to find the best pictures of Robert Smith I could find online. And then this one my partner Ash made with the same stuff. That's her work. And this is a little inspirational thing right here for me where I collect cool pieces of metal. And other thing with the sun print I wanted to show, because I was talking about it with Katie, was like we go down to the beach with a pre-exposed print and kind of lay down there and like do a thing and then try and wash it out in the lake.
Cool.
Just goofy, fun.
What's the red?
That's like a backing paper because it all broke up.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I've got a few other things I'll quickly show, but this is like some other metal stuff I did. We had a little COVID bar in the basement just for us who lived there, and we called it bidet bar because everyone was out of toilet paper, even though we did not have a bidet. And the light comes out of these holes and makes a really beautiful look. And then these are some fire pits I made out of these barrels that I got from a candy factory not too far from my house. And here's one that's installed I made for my friend for his COVID bar, which was called Secret Space.
Cool.
That's Liz's house, yeah.
He comes back.
Yeah. And then I have I just show what I got into here. Everybody knows it. We worked on the roof down there at the kiosk. That's coming along. Had help from Andy and Nico, because that was totally amazing help. And we got really far on it. And I made some clay stuff. I was in the clay studio a lot. I was trying to make a dinnerware set for my house and to keep with the ethos of like trying to make place beautiful things in there that I can make. Here's that sculpture that I made based on that drawing from a long time ago. And I made some plates, which are in the kiln, and here's some of them coming out. Like awesome glazes here, so fun. These all 3 look the same.
Did you purposely leave your fingerprints? Was that cool?
Yeah.
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 I like that.
Just like the tiles. you
Like the
Yeah.
tiles, yeah. Saw those tiles. I'm like, that guy's got the right idea. Fast. Don't think about it. Bowls.
Productive.
Some plates. Yeah, thanks to Casey and Maria.
Okay, that was it. 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
That's
There's
it.
like a whole load still. to come.
Oh, actually, shoot, I missed the whole thing. How are we doing on time? Am I pretty done? I can be done. Yeah.
You should do- Yeah, we were gonna do.
I'll-
People, yeah, leave.
Yeah, please,
One hour.
please. Please leave. So I forgot to get into more house stuff. So there's I have two little projects that I got into. One is our yard. I was super inspired by a trip to Howard Finster's house. Yeah, Paradise Gardens in Georgia. He's mostly known for paintings, but he's got a beautiful, amazing home which you can visit. And it's called Paradise Garden. It's got all this amazing concrete work all over the place, a total act of devotion this kind of stuff is what inspires me. And this is the same milieu that alchemy is in, for sure, 100% the same level.
I should say,
I mean, I use that, I say that word sometimes too, but it's like, it's just a beautiful thing, like, yeah. So what really caught my eye as a thing that I needed was this idea of a quick and easy and fun, generous and generative way to make concrete tiles, which is what I needed to do. And I thought, there's a long tradition in history of people doing this, but this was inspiring me. And it's the thing that made me move forward with this bigger project for me that I did. Look how beautiful that is. So all these raised beds, all this junk in there.
Where is this?
This is in South Central Georgia.
How large are these?
So this, I think, is maybe 24 by 24. And then these ones back here, I think are like more like 10 by 10. Yeah. And you can do them inside in the winter and bring them out in the summer. Yeah. Yeah. So I got into the same thing. I basically made molds out of melamine. You can see them back here. Bought a concrete mixer. Melamine is like it's like a press board that's covered with plastic. It's like Formica, and it releases from concrete really easy. It's easy to make flat shapes like squares or rectangles, but it's harder to make round shapes. But you can do it.
So you
It just takes more time.
set it and then you just flip it out. And it's dry or something like that, or do you have
Well,
to like deconstruct?
For me, I had to deconstruct the mold because each mold had 11 slots in it, and it was just long grid. When I filled them up, I just dumped it all across the thing and like got it all in there, vibrated it in there, and then I made all my ceramic bits and pieces. Yeah. Yeah. You can do, it doesn't matter. It's so easy, quick. You can spend as much time on the shapes as you want because they're going to be in the context of a field of other ones. So here's like, I cut these pieces of drywall to about the size of the tile. And I would work on that and kind of compose things on that and then let them dry. And then the evidence of the red clay on the drywall would be like the drawing that I would refer to later.
Oh.
And as the process went, here's the molds. And I just made all the concrete nicely in there, really floated it a lot to bring a lot of the small material up to the top and get the big chunks down in there because they are concrete. They're not like mortar and sand mix. It's got like stones in there. So, and then I got this small hammer drill. It's a kind of a bigger hammer drill. And I cut the tip off of a drill bit and I covered it with a bunch of inner tube rubber and taped it all up and then just hammered each piece into the thing. That way I could compose it on top while I can see it. It's much easier to clean it off. Because if you did them all face down and then you put the concrete behind it, you have to like flip them over and there's a ton of removal of shit that you have to do and you can hardly see your stuff, especially if they're sculptural or round or whatever.
It's meant to like. Fit to just be like.
Yeah, there's stones all in it. So you gotta use some force. And if it breaks, doesn't matter, it's encased in concrete.
Wow. Do you have a picture of what it all looks like?
Yeah.
You made all those?
So all these, this is 3.6 tons of concrete.
Wow.
That's like how Casey made a donut.
Was it 2020?
In 2021.
I think I did this in 2020. So we might have been. My spirit might have left me in it. So here's that same
Wow.
piece of drywall that's now in the concrete.
Yeah,
You can do glass. You do
yeah, why is
mirror.
it so shiny?
That's the mirror.
No, not the mirror, the.
Oh, it's wet. Yeah, take pictures while they were wet. Because it's higher contrast. When it's dry, the concrete's kind of white. But you can add. That looks like you. Looks like your stuff.
Yeah.
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 Done.
Give them the drill.
Low fire.
Yeah,
Low
like,
fire blades.
Good idea. This is how we get it. Sorry. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
No, this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Back with the home theme of like everything has to have a purpose or a function, you know. This whole project was because this was like a swamp. Basically, when it rained, had terrible drainage and lead soil, terrible soil from the power plant that ran for like 40 years, not too far from us, coal-fired power plant. So heavy metals all over the place. So we actually removed all the dirt and we put in drain tile. So this drains into, there's a tile in the middle that takes it out into the street. Otherwise, we do have a lot of flooding in Chicago, especially in my neighborhood. And I redid this little cistern. Well, it's not a cistern, it's I forget what it's called, but it's a little seal there. I redid all this too. And the gravel was a huge deal. And this is kind of what they are before they were finally installed. Here's our friend Kate cutting some tiles. We can cut them with that wet saw I was talking about. And if you need to. So here's it is from above.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's so. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet cherry.
Just sand and.
It's like it's 3/16 gravel, so a smaller type of gravel. So the gravel was like 3/4 rock and then like 2 inches of 3/16 rock, or maybe it's 3/8 rock. And then the same rock in between all the tiles. And I compacted them and did all the contractor stuff. And Ash is always mad because she only got this much of a garden. Kind of went overboard with the thing. But the grill's back here, so like, what do you need?
You can get plants. Yeah.
So this one's I'm not even gonna do this one. I'll just say that there's some things that are not rewarding at all. Like you have to just do the work and it sucks and it hurts your body. And it doesn't help. I mean, it helps keep you have a dry basement, but it doesn't help anything else. Everything else sucks. It's kind of typified by this wheelbarrow breaking, but you know, all the gravel. And then I found this ammonite in the gravel.
Wow.
That's a piece of gravel. Yeah. And then, so the only opportunity I had of that whole project, which is digging out drain tile all around the side of my basement, a full dumpster full of dirt, which cost a ton of money to get out, to have them haul the dumpster away, but they were able to hide it in my garage, which is illegal, but also great. Was that I was able to put this mosaic in right here because I had to tear up the whole zone. And the mosaic is based on this thing I saw, which was George chasing a mouse through these flowers.
Oh, wait, go back to the image down the reading.
I thought I put a mouse in here, but I forgot, maybe not. Yeah,
You don't often see that. Yeah.
that's it.
Wow.
So inspiring.
Thank you.
Um,
fun.
do you wanna do a Q?
Yeah, any cues out there?
I guess I'm curious about, your take from leaving art school.
Yeah.
Is interesting, and I'm wondering, did you ever wanna like enter into the art world in a different way than you did after going to school? How did your shift happen?
Yeah. Well, I had a really hard time in art school. I had no success. It pretty much made me ashamed. And I didn't know what to do after that. I was making work, which is in this folder called BCE, before Common Era, like before the change. I don't even want to know. Like, I don't want to know myself back then. It was so tortured, so like unable to express anything I had inside because I had so many rules
Yeah.
received. But yeah, the change came when I got inspired by a new kind of art that was not marketable, or I didn't think it was marketable. And I started working at a ceramic studio for adults with disabilities in California. And it just totally had a brainwave and basically switched gears totally, completely into the thing that was my dark shadow, the thing that was demonized in art school for me. Maybe I did it to myself, I don't know. But it was basically pretension that was dominating me. So now I'm kind of anti-pretense, anti-professional vibe. And that's really freed me up from thinking what success is. I don't even know what success is. But I see people who've done things that I really respect and admire. And I'm like, well, that's there it is right there. Anybody else in the art world or like the art market or whatever that they teach you to try to go for sometimes in art school would be like, how are you gonna be successful? You're never gonna get anywhere with that. You're tormenting your community. Your family's crazy because you won't stop, like it's not profitable. What are you doing? So that's what I'm into, as I'm trying to get into, yeah. Who went to art school here? Yeah. Do we have room recovery? Yeah. I just had the wrong mentors, I think, the wrong.
What is next for you? What are you excited about?
Well, I have all these drawings that I want to make. And we have a garden. We have an easement actually that belongs to the city in front of the house. And I want to make a sculptural, like low fence that the plants can kind of like bust through. In the easement now, we just plant, my partner Ash plants hundreds of bulbs there. I think every year, maybe they're perennial. I'm not really sure, but she did it this year again. And just around now, they start going crazy. It's like a free flower fest. There's just so many flowers. The cats are in there, becomes like a little wildlife refuge for mice and stuff. Just tiny little 12 by 5 patch. I want to make like cool metal rebar, super basic spikes in the ground with little swooping concrete covered structures with stuff in it, maybe like spikes or something, something interesting, maybe a little door. So But that, to get it out of the house and into the community, you know, I want to be more out in the community with the stuff, to be more interactive and more of a sharing, generous thing than just a me inside my own building, you know, thing. Which you guys do really well here, you know, because it's like you have something special and you want it to be, you know, you're artist, you want it to be shared, you want people to interact with it, have some piece of it. So I'd like to do that. And I'm also next is working on the building a lot more. That's not going to stop anytime soon.
So.
How does your like neighborhood or the street like receive your work? Or this like kind of public facing
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
I'm curious about neighbors. Are
There-
they good?
You know, there is a few other weirdos that we all kind of like, you know, what's
Just
up?
bigger
We're
friends.
not exactly friends, but just like, you know, because there's a language barrier that I would need to overcome in my neighborhood. But, you know, there's a lot of really interesting stuff here and there. And there's also a lot of other homeowner style guerrilla work, like illegal work going on, that we also all clock each other on what we're doing. Like we all know what's going on. And we all, I assume, are like, okay, we're on the same team here, you know. Our neighborhood is not gentrified to the point where somebody's gonna rat us out. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. There's not a lot of foot traffic, people being super interested in what's going on. It's kind of, there's a lot of people around, but not a lot of interaction. You know, some parts of Chicago are just like that. Yeah, it's just, yeah, there's no real, I mean, I don't have any outreach either. So I don't have anything that's like in the front of the house that's like blah, you know. That's what I want. That's what I want the little easement thing to be.
Not that trees.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and so that he wants to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. The extent to which we like interact and network is like, oh, I've got a concrete mixer. Okay, somebody came over and asked me to borrow the concrete mixer. Like, oh hell yes, dude. Let me bring it over. Let me see your stuff. Let me get in there. What are we dealing with? What do you got? What's your problem? You know, like we all trade crazy stories about, well, the few people that I actually do interact and talk with. We're all deathly afraid of the city.
One more thing that it seems like I don't know what the question is in it, or like speaking more to it, but holding the creative reality of like the looseness and maintaining the fingerprint and the memory of the tool and the story of the creation of the thing and highlighting that in creative work while rebuilding a house, which I have been learning, you really think corners with rebuilding a house, there's a lot of formula with making sure that the water doesn't get in, there's a lot of step by step. And I just find that really interesting that you're maintaining these two art practices at the same time, one of which like by necessity is detail or, you know, you were doing the house, doing the building project around here, it was like really impressive how it's like, okay, the step where you put the concrete to make sure the mice don't get into the roof, like there's a lot of choiceless detail associated with construction, and that is the baseline of this creative project, and your creative process is, very free and, different than that, it seems like.
Mhm.
Just noticing that, I don't know if you wanna speak to that, or if you just wanna acknowledge that, I find it really, really cool that you're like maintaining these two, things at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, part of the whole like switching gears with processes, like getting into metal, getting into blacksmithing and getting into like the concrete is that itch of like new method, new tools, new like standard for what's good is a big time homeowner thing or like, you know, contractor style thing where you got to learn a new thing. It's like, okay, asphalt roofing, copper plumbing, and you get no more tools, which is just kind of like the other thing, which is like, oh yeah, more tools. Oh, I can learn how to use this type of solder. Oh, what else can this solder do? And having all this homeowner contractor stuff in my house is like, oh, I have a jackhammer. How do I sculpt with a jackhammer? How do I sculpt with the other little hammer thing? Yeah, and the wet saw thing, you know, once I figured out you could do that, that's, oh my God, you can like cut ceramic.
Just like the tile saw.
Yeah, like, so it's a little bit inspiring, but it is really hard when you have to do one thing for a long time. Yeah, that is hard. So, yeah, it's not, there's no way out of that really when you're building a house. You just gotta keep doing it.
It's probably the people you muted. Cool
Oh.
presentation.
Thanks for coming. It's really cool for me.
Yeah.
My first artist talk.
That was really inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Should we unearth the raccoon while there's so much?
Right. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
Loya's, Loya's dose.
Hi.
Who is it? It's Ben. Oh, say hi.
Wait,
Uh,
juicy. Juicy community. Mwah.